Good evening and welcome to GamingAlimonda for round 10 of the Psgl F1 League. And we are here at the legendary Spa-Francorchamps for what promises to be a fascinating race around the longest track on the calendar this season. And he will be back shortly, and I will introduce my co-commentator for this evening. But for now, let's have a quick look at the championship standings for this particular season. So we have Cliffy on 87 points, who re-established a bit of comfortable gap. A 27-point gap he has to Lewis W3, who's won the last two races at Britain and Hungary. Ashbest didn't have the best of races in Hungary, but he's a point behind Lewis on 59. XJackLacey on 47 points. AMS on 47 points, just behind him. And then further back we've got Big C on 43 points, who incidentally makes his return to the F1 grid, having missed the previous two races. And he has finally returned to the commentary booth, so the regular F3 commentator and quite a hoarder of points in Psgl FP of late, it's Johnny Greenwood. Welcome to the commentary booth again, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Venom, and good evening, everyone. Yeah, happy to be here again. Looking forward to tonight's race.
Yeah, it should be a cracker. Certainly my favourite Grand Prix circuit, and I'm sure there's many out there who would agree with me on that point. And just going to quickly mention the constructors' standings while we're here. Mercedes, well, they're in a dominant position right now, 129 points, a massive 41-point gap to the Haas team, who have been the informed team going into the second half of the season, but they've still got a lot of work to do if they're going to challenge Mercedes. They're on 88 points. Ferrari, well, they've had their problems of late since a promising start to the season, with Big C being absent and Jamie leaving the grid. They're on 81 points, and then Force India on 80 points, and then 59 points for the McLaren team. And speaking of McLaren, it is sad to report that we've lost another former Psgl F1 champion from the grid. So everyone from the Psgl F1 and myself wishes Remco Vengeance all the best of whatever he does next. He will be sadly missed from the grid. So that leaves Ashbest as the sole McLaren driver for the time being. And Oogie Azeem, unfortunately due to work, will not be racing tonight. So that is a sad loss, especially given his recent form with 2 podiums. Now, just a brief mention of some other team news. I did mention Big C is back on the grid this evening, but Lordy Boy serves the final of his 4 race ban, so he will return for Italy next week. So, Johnny, in terms of this 19-turn circuit, 7 kilometers long per lap, only 22 laps at this particular race. What is your opinion of the circuit?
Well, personally speaking, I struggle around Spa, particularly in Sector 2. And I also find that you have to be ever so gentle on the throttle coming out of the last corner. Otherwise, you could easily spin it. But I don't expect to be seeing any mistakes from the F1 grid tonight. But I think there's a few factors that could potentially decide or determine the outcome of tonight's race. The first one I would say is Spa being a power circuit. There's going to be various different wing levels that people are going to be running to maximise their top speed without compromising too much in the corners. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I think penalties might come into play. There's 1 or 2 areas of the track where it's easy to pick up a 3-second time penalty. And last one is this being Spa, is always a potential that the rain clouds could rise ugly heads on tonight's proceedings, which may favour 1 or 2 drivers over the rest of them.
Yes, the unpredictable nature of the Belgian weather in the beautiful countryside of the Ardennes forests certainly has been a factor in the past for this particular race in real life and of course in Psgl. So it would not surprise us at all if we see some mixed conditions out there and we see use of the intermediate and full wet tyres. Ultra soft, super soft and soft compounds available if it's a dry race and indeed dry quali. And we will have the usual 12-minute qualifying session and the 22 lap 50% race distance, which is the least amount of laps on the grid all season, but it is indeed the longest lap of the season. Now, the return of Big C could certainly have an effect on the championship battle, given he is more than capable of winning any race he competes in. But Cliffy, with 27-point gap with 5 rounds to go, would you say he's still got one hand on that Psgl F1 trophy, Johnny?
Yeah, time is running out for the people behind him now. Cliffy did have a run of bad luck, particularly during the street tracks phase of the season, but it certainly returned to form of late, and whereas his competitors are keep chipping over each other, really. So yeah, I think he will be confident that he can maintain his lead in the championship for the rest of the season. I think if anyone else was to win the title, I think it would come down to a lot of luck and some skill, obviously, but mainly luck.
Indeed. So just a quick reminder, Lordy Boy is banned from the race, the final of his 4-match ban. Remco has left the grids. Nick Pine is absent, as is Oogie Azeem. And a warm welcome to everyone who's joined the chat, including Oogie, onto the podium. Double C Brain, good to see you again as we begin the countdown for the qualifying session. And well, by the looks of it, I think in terms of the chat, I don't think people are meant to be readying up. I could be wrong, but if they go, I think the admins may have a bit of a red face for that, but we shall see. Well, countdown's finished, so I guess we're going. We might get a restart, I don't know. We'll find out shortly. I'm keeping an eye on the chat as well. So we're going to be experimenting with a more efficient way of doing the post-race podium, which you will see shortly, which will hopefully reduce the amount of blue screen you see, which I'm never really a fan of. Now, as Johnny mentioned earlier, it is certainly true that in terms of your setup, you really need to minimise the drag on the main straights and then try and hang on through sector 2 and then blast through sector 3. So really it's going to be a compromise between straight line speed and downforce for sector 2. So some drivers probably won't mind losing a few tenths here and there in sector 2 if it means they gain all the time in sector 1 and 3, and certainly when it comes to overtaking during the race. So for those of you watching, let us know what your prediction for the top 3 for tonight's race will be. In terms of practice, I have seen Ash Best going very strong in terms of practice qualifying stints, and he could be the favourite for pole position here today. But there is no question the most informed driver right now in Psgl F1 is Lewis W03. Back-to-back victories at Britain and Hungary, and the Hungary victory in particular utterly dominant over the current championship leader Cliffy. And if he continues up this form, we could yet see a championship battle go right down to the wire when we have the final round in Japan. And it's a wet qualifying session. Very interesting, Johnny.
Yeah, that looks like intermediate conditions, I'd say. So, like I said, I think that might favour 1 or 2 drivers over the rest of the field. I wouldn't like to say who, though, if I'm going to be honest. But I know that 1 or 2 drivers in the grid would probably have a wet setup already planned for the qualifying. So interesting to see how it all plans out.
Yeah, and as is usually the case when it's wet conditions, the driver's somewhat reluctant to come out. Well, I wonder if Ash Best will make his customary flying exit out of the pit first, and yes, he does. I don't know how he does it, but every time he's always first. If only the real McLaren was this fast. But anyway, we go through Sector 1 here, and the conditions don't look too bad. I think it is. I mean, we could get the possibility of the rain sort of easing off by the end, even though we only have 12 minutes. So I think most drivers, especially given how long the lap is, will probably want to fuel and stay out for the whole time, unless of course it dries out. So we could see quite a mix-up grid here.
Yeah, I think one of the things that is particularly difficult around this particular track is obviously being the longest lap of a circuit. You're not going to have so much flexibility of doing the customary 2 runs. Obviously, you've got to go out, be a quick lap, come back in again, and then you haven't got too long left to do the same thing again. So, yeah, people are going to be scrambling. I think track position is going to be important in the qualifying session as well.
Yeah, and I think we'll stick on board with Ash Best as he's going to make the first lap, so we can do a nice lap of this circuit. And lots of corner names to remember, so I have been reading, so hopefully I remember them all. If not, you can forgive me. I really needed a local expert like Funhouse here. He knows this track like the back of his hand. I think he's even been to this track in real life, so but sadly he's still very busy.
I've been to Belgium, and just tell you something about it. The camera doesn't give it justice of how steep hill up Eau Rouge is. It really is incredibly steep.
Yeah, I would love to walk it. I would really love to walk the track just to have a look. But anyway, as best then, starting the first lap of this qualifying session, crosses the start-finish line then, heading into La Source hairpin, the scene of many incidents in the past in real life F1 and Psgl. Might see a few snapped wings come the end, and then the ride down, this fantastic run down to Eau Rouge and Radion. Eau Rouge, of course, is a small stream that runs underneath the track, and it's actually Eau Rouge and Radion is the actual top part of it. And then we move on to the Kemmel Straight, which will be the primary overtaking spot on the track during the race. So, not sure on the wet times, to be honest, because I've not seen too many wet practice. I know in the dry it would have been high 42s or low 43s for pole position. So it's going to be a bit of a question mark here. So through Les Combes and then down to Rivage, which can be a tricky braking zone. But Ash Best, nice and smooth on the pedals and the steering wheel so far.
Interestingly, he keeps switching his fuel mix to lean to max, depending on what part of the track he's on.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you have to do in these conditions, because you don't want to be running rich revs except on the straight parts. If you run rich revs in some of these corners, you'll get terrible traction. So he is doing exactly the right thing, and that's how you drive correctly in these wet conditions. You have to really use those power modes to get the best traction from the corners, and then use rich on the straights. So coming out of sector 2 then, and then onto the fantastic, probably my favourite section of the track actually, which might be strange to Eau Rouge, but I just love this section, especially when you go wheel to wheel. Blanchimont here, flat in the dry. Let's see how if Ash Best can brave it out. And wow, he goes pretty much flat, so that's impressive. Top gear, and then we go into the bus stop, that little line just before the DRS activation zone. So this is going to be the benchmark time for the rest of the beat for now. And look at that, such a long lap. There's only 7 minutes of the session left, so they've got to be staying out. 1:57 then. Let's see who else is near the end. Big C then is heading into Blanchimont. Can he be a 1:57.330? His return to the Psgl F1 grid today. Greeny goes quicker then with a 1:57.143 for Sauber. Big C goes through the bus stop, locks the tyres. Ooh, the car really nervous on the front end, and that would have cost him a couple of tenths. There's some really spread out times already. Greeny the best. Big C crosses the line and only managed fourth. That was a big mistake at the bus stop. 1.5 seconds down, although I think he must have made more mistakes around. So we could see a few surprises at the front, and Greeny, that's a tough time to beat. So who else is out there at the moment?
Lickle was very close to the end.
Oh, and a massive moment for HELLBOY at Blanchimont just before the bus stop. And he's lost half his wing, and Lickle goes fourth. But yeah, HELLBOY's going to have to get to the pits quickly, get his wing repaired, and head straight back out. He's got time, thankfully. If that happened any other part of the track, he would have been pretty stuffed. And he goes round to complete the lap. Why? Why would you do that? God, that is a bizarre decision from HELLBOY. Maybe he just wanted to get the lap done, or maybe he's given up, but he had time to get back in the pits.
Yeah, strange decision that is. XJackLacey is not too far away from completing his time. Got slightly wide there, but it looks okay.
Yeah, XJackLacey, former Psgl F1 champion, and he's gone into the pits, so must have invalidated somewhere, but he's got plenty of time to get another set. So Ash Best rounds the final corner then. Has he improved at all on his previous best? Excuse the pun. And he does. 1:56.476. So it looks like the rain is easing off. You can see there's less drops of rain. So these times are going to keep coming down to the end of the session, just over 5 minutes to go. And a question from Frizzo in the chat: is Cliffy going to win the championship? Well, still plenty of points to play for. Certainly, if you look at the average points he's scoring all season, very likely to win the championship based on that. But we've still got plenty of racing left to do. He's currently 3rd though, and his nearest rival Lewis is only 12th right now, so I think Cliffy would be quite happy with that at this stage as he comes back into the pits.
Yeah, so obviously second people in almost half the qualifying time to do their runs, well, such as the length of the lap.
Ash Best has very low fuel, so this is clearly his last run because he's not going to have time to get back and pit again. Unless he pits right now, of course. Anyone else out? No, Greeny's in, Cliffy's in. Most of the grid in. HELLBOY has kept going with half a wing, so strange decision. Oh, and HELLBOY struggling through Blanchimont again, but this time he controls it handsomely. And he goes to the pits. Well, he might just have time, but he's going to be cutting it. So Ash Best through sector 2, didn't actually give me a time, see if he was any faster. Ash Best won't have time to do another run, I don't think. He's got 3.5 minutes. The animation will take at least a minute, and it's not a quick pit lane here, so I think Ash Best, unless this is a final flying run, that's it for him. So where does Ash, is he going to go into the pits? He is. Well, he may rue that mistake because the track is clearly drying out now. The rain has stopped completely here at Spa. So is anyone going to brave dry tires? Yes, look at that. The purple's lighting up. I think a few drivers will certainly brave it and try and get the ultimate gamble paying off. Fernando Alonso at Silverstone in Quali 1 style. Last season in the real F1. Well, this is going to be an absolutely fascinating end to this session, isn't it?
So yeah, sorry, I was going to say JD has gone back out, but he's stayed on the intermediate tyres, as is XJackLacey and Skeevan.
Well, there is still there's still spray on the track though, so JD may have still made the right decision. Depends. It's a big track though. Depends how quickly it's going to dry. But the Ultra Softs are going to struggle to work, so it might be a very last minute thing. As Ash Best is still in the pit lane. Is he coming out? No, he's still in the garage. He's got just over 2 minutes. He's got to come out literally now, otherwise he's never going to make it. He's going to lose at least 20 seconds. Anyway, Greeny's on his out lap. Cliffy, Lickle, Iran.
Paudie's on the Ultra Soft tyres.
Yep. The Renault boys splitting strategy. Ash Best is still in the garage. Well, he's definitely not going to. Well, there's Ash Best now. It's going to be absolutely last minute if he makes it, but he's on the Ultras and he's already struggling. But we're going to focus our attention on Ash Best for now. Who's going to be starting their first up? And I really want to see how one of the Ultra runners do.
Yeah, he's going to need to warm those Ultra Soft tyres up pretty quickly, so you can maximise them for his qualifying lap.
I can only assume Skeevan got a next lap invalidation because he has called it a day. There's still spray on the track. It is very fine. The difference between dry and into conditions right now. It is right on the sort of edge of it.
So Shortbread and Ash Best are very close together on track, both running Ultra Soft tyres.
They're not going to make it.
Skeevan's disconnected.
Yeah, but that's pretty standard for Skeevan, but that shouldn't affect the race over it. Yeah, Ash Best and Shortbread will not make it. So then, Greeny then, he stayed on the inters. Let's see how he does.
XJackLacey retired without setting the time.
Yeah, wow, this is a turn up for the books. So Greeny may have an opportunity to take pole position by a significant margin here, given the drying track. Will Ash Best make it? No, 30 seconds, it's going to be so close for him, but I think he's going to miss out by a few seconds. Greeny then, going through sector 2. You keep an eye on Ash Best, Shortbread, see if they make it.
Yeah, just to let you know, Paudie will cross the line to start a qualifying lap on ultra-soft tyres. But yeah, keep an eye on those two.
Greeny's not going particularly fast though, so Ashbeth may still get...
Oh God, it's going to be close.
No, Ashbeth fails.
No.
He took too long. That extra lap's cost him, but a lot of the people still on inters, and if it gets dry, the inter runners will go slower anyway, so Ashbeth may still get pole position here. But what about, I want to see what Joel is doing, because
Joel and Paudie.
Joel made it and so did Paudie, so we could see a really surprise here. So what has Paudie done? 32.460. I don't know if that's quicker or not. Now let's go to Greeny first. Greeny's going to be the first of the front runners to reach the end. But has it gone over to that dry condition? DRS enabled right now.
Enabled.
So if Joel and Paudie can hold it together, they could snatch a sensational front row right now. But let's see what Greeny does. Rounding the final corner. It's in the 50s already. You know what? I think the inters have just gone. They have gone. The inters have gone. So whoever's on the dry tyres right now could take it. Who's getting there? Oh, Maxi's binned it. So Paudie who's first? Is it Joel?
Joel will be first one across the line.
Let's see what Joel can do then. Oh, it still looks tricky out there. It's getting drier and drier.
Go on.
No, go for it.
No, I was just going to say, it's because of such a good lap, it's going to be some areas of the track dry, it's going to be wet still.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure if Joel's going to get this, you know. He's just entering the bus stop now, and he's in the 50s already, so I think Ashbeth could still take pole position, but I think Joel may gain some positions. Oh, this is going to be close. Joel heads for the line, and he takes second. What about Paudie, though? Has he improved? No! Only thirds. Oh, so Ashbeth will take pole position by default. To a degree, a bit of luck, but those excellent bankers early on in the session have saved Ashbeth, so he takes pole position. And he's in a brilliant position to close a gap to Cliffy if the result would finish like that. And that is Ashbeth's first pole position in this division, so big congratulations to him, but it's only half the battle. Cliffy in 5th position, and Lewis has had a terrible session. 12th place, his best time 4.4 seconds off Ashbeth's time, which was set on the inters, don't forget, not the ultra softs.
Yeah, not really sure what happened to JackLacey and JD. They both didn't set a time, so obviously he had issues.
Yeah, possibly invalidations. I'm just going to have a quick look. Yeah, JD got an invalidation. I'm not sure about... Well, JD crashed, but I'm not sure about JackLacey. But yeah, Joel and Paudie with by far their... Well, especially in Joel's case, definitely the best qualifying session of the season for him. Shortbread only 14th for Ferrari as we end this fascinating session. If there'd been another minute to that session, I think Joel could have taken pole there.
Yeah.
Or Paudie.
Interestingly, the people who Ashbeth, for example, and Greeny and Cliffy, assuming it's going to be a dry race at the start, they get a free choice of tyres as well.
They do indeed. You are correct on that. But that's assuming it's a dry race. No one's actually told me in the chat yet, so we're in the dark. So, Ashbeth takes pole, Joel 2nd, Paudie 3rd, Greeny 4th, and Cliffy 5th, making up the top 5. And we got some really fast drivers outside the top 10. So, hopefully nobody leaves and we get some brilliant racing today. No slipstream glitch. This could be an absolute cracker, ladies and gentlemen. And according to Liquid Blocks...
Oh no, it's chucking down.
A full wet race. Oh dear.
It's full wet.
I did mention in my tweet earlier that it's 20 years this year since that infamous 1998 race here in the real sport. Oh dear. The run down to El Rouge is going to be extremely interesting. Hopefully everyone gets through in one piece up El Rouge and Radion as the countdown goes. And I assume everyone's on the full wets.
Yeah. Skeevan, unfortunately, has not made the grid, so he's going to miss out today.
Yep, looks like it. His internet's really bugging him. We might have to look at his network settings. It can't just be his internet, it must be some sort of port setting. It's causing these disconnects constantly. So then, Asbest, Joel, Paudie, Greeny, Cliffy. Watch the 5 red lights. A big pause and away we go. Asbest getting a decent getaway off the line. And Greeny cutting across Cliffy, or at least trying to. Cliffy's going to go down the inside of the Sauber. Asbest emerging out of that mist. And I'm going to go aboard Asbest. Look at all that mist behind him. It's going to be so hard. And side by side go Joel and Paudie up through El Rouge and Radion. Is anyone going to absolutely bin it? Paudie goes wide and Joel goes wide as well. Oh my goodness, it's nearly 3 wide here. And Maxi's made an unbelievable start from further down. He's looking to get past Joel. And Asbest already has a big advantage, and there's contacts between 3 cars, and Cliffy moves up to second. Well, Joel and Paudie already dropping places, and the 2 Mercedes just illustrating their constructors' dominance, now second and third. But Asbest with a big advantage early on. 2-second gap to Cliffy. And Greeny going side by side with Joel, 2 drivers who know each other very well. And so Greeny holds position in terms of his rear position. But what a start for Maxi, gains 5 places. JD's made a great start as well, 6 places gained. And look at all that spray. This is tricky conditions out there.
Not a great start for the Ferrari boys, 12th and 15th place, so they've got problems. But yeah, like I said, a great start from JD.
Yeah, and Lickle going side by side. Paudie, nice move from Lickle, moving up to 6th. Paudie, unfortunately, not having much speed in the rain. And Iran, the self-proclaimed points master, is in 8th place at the moment, looking to continue that great run of points he's got. Although he's got the Williams of JD right alongside him, so we'll stick with him. Can barely see a thing. JD moves past Iran up to 8th as Paudie runs very wide, and there's people going wide everywhere. Is JD going to go for a move down the inside, and Joel gets a 10-second penalty? Oh, there's contact between Greeny up ahead and Joel. I missed that completely. Joel gets a penalty for that. Oh goodness me, Greeny will be absolutely furious about that. Joel wedged himself into the side of the Sauber. It was a good impression of Jolyon Palmer, that's for sure. And Asbest now 2.8 seconds. He's clearly got the pace to dominate this race, but Cliffy, he won't mind. It's good points for the championship right now. And Iran, all that contact at the bus stop means Iran moves up to 7th. So let's run through the race order then. Asbest, Cliffy, Maxi, Lickle is up to 4th now. So the Voltex boys going really well. And as behind, there is a lot of going on. Look at this scramble for 8th, 9th and 10th. Joel's dropped down to 10th, of course, after that contact. Just going to check, has anyone pitted yet? No pit stops, so no wing damage. At least not enough to force a pit stop so far, so that's pretty impressive considering the conditions. So Lewis has moved back into the points, but he's nowhere near where he wants to be, so he's got a lot of work to do. So 22 lap race, Johnny, do you think if it stays wet the whole race, do you think there's people who are just going to stay out for the whole race? Because of course no compulsory pit stop if it's a fully wet race.
Yeah, it's a safe bet to do that. I suppose if you're outside the top 10, you making a pit stop, you ain't got really nothing to lose. But yeah, I think if you're in a decent point scoring position, then why take the risk?
Absolutely. So Asbest now 4 seconds now the gap. This is turning into a bit of a Schumacher-esque domination from the McLaren driver, looking for his 3rd win of the season, I believe, having won in Malaysia and Azerbaijan earlier in the season. And look at this, the lap time said AMS gets a 10-second time penalty. I wonder why that was. A bit of a scramble going on behind. So I think, oh, an AMS, bit of a nudge to Lewis. Joel's right alongside him. And they're going 3 wide into La Source. Oh, the bravery on show here. So Lewis has dropped down to 10th again. AMS with a 10-second time penalty. It's very, if you go wide at the bus stop, look at that, side by side through El Rouge, Joel and AMS, and Joel gets the move done. No, oh, it's massive contact, AMS The Force India caught as well. That was a massive crash. Massive crash.
Well, they couldn't do what Webb and Alonso
Jack
did.
Lacey,
go up by Rouge
Jack
together.
Lacey had nowhere to go. Unbelievable. Big C moves up to 9th as a result. 5 second stop go for HELLBOY. And, well, and I think we're going to get a safety car now because of that. Oh, wait, it doesn't work. Ash Best, Cliffy, Maxi lick all the top 4. Paudie, thanks to all this nonsense, is up to 5th. He's under real pressure from JD. So that all started with Joel making an amazing move at Eau Rouge, but he then just lost it at Radion and just collected the Red Bull of AMS, and then that just led to a massive chain reaction. Jack Lacey, poor Jack Lacey, he had nowhere to go. Nowhere to go.
It almost looked like that AMS actually followed Joel into the barriers, but obviously there was contact.
Yes, he got stuck on him. AMS couldn't do anything about it. It's a racing incident. It's just Joel lost control of the car. And, well, he'll have to. Well, I'm going to have a check on Joel, see the condition of his car, but he must have wing damage. Yep,
Yeah,
half his left wing gone. Jack Lacey certainly has whole wing on, and he may have to just call it a day right there. So I think we are going to get our first pit stops of the day, and now we've got the 2 Ferrari teammates looking to go into combat. It has not been a good day for Ferrari, or indeed a good recent races. The return of Big C has not been the inspiration they needed, but Big C hasn't performed that well in the rain in the past, so he'll be hoping for more dry races to really show what he can do. So Ashbesh now 6.2 seconds ahead after only 4 laps. This is sensational pace.
Greeny pits as well.
Yep, wing changes. He's got a stop go. Jack Lacey, well, he cuts that, and Joel. Jack Lacey retires. He's been to the pit lane, and he, well, I honestly have sympathy with him, and I would have certainly called it a day after that as well.
Interestingly, there's a lot of 10-second penalties popping up on the screen for exceeding track limits rather than the usual 3-second ones. I'm not sure why that's.
That'll be the bus stop corner. That's same step on 2016. If you cut that, you get 10 seconds straight away.
Okay, I say you're right.
So it's a real opportunity for those who don't normally get high up in the points to get some very good scores today, because Jack Lacey, AMS, and some of the other fast drivers of this grid have had awful days today so far.
Yeah, I think JD and Erin are in great positions now to score more points for their teams and themselves.
Yeah, just in terms of the battles, well, JD's closing in on Paudie in the battle for 5th. Lewis is closing on Erin in the battle for 7th. And Big C trying to hold off his teammate in the battle for 9th. So it's sort of calming down after that opening exchange. We saw some madness and, well, a crash that nearly equaled the 1998 one I talked about. That's the biggest crash of the season in Psgl F1 so far, no question about it. That was a shunt and a half. So
yeah, so 13 drivers left, order in lap 5.
Yeah, and now an interesting battle here. The reigning F2 champion Lewis closing in on the back of Erin, the former 3-time Psgl F1 champion. It's the vibrancy of youth versus the grizzled veteran. Let's see who comes out on top here. And Erin doesn't get the best exit over Radion, and I think Lewis may have half a sniff of making a move into Lecon. We go on board. Oh, and Lewis is going for it. Goes late on the brakes. And where is Erin? And that's a fantastic move from Lewis, to be fair. Erin couldn't do anything about it. And now Lewis moves up to 7th. And Erin may get caught next by the 2 Ferrari drivers. The first of which will be a very familiar foe to Erin. But Big C may have to worry more about his teammate first. And meanwhile, Ashbest now has a 7.5 second advantage to Cliffy. This is the kind of territory Cliffy will not be enjoying. In Hungary last week, he could do absolutely nothing about the person. Oh, there's a Maxi off the track. Just saw out of the corner of my eye. Maxi has binned it, so that promotes Lickle up to 3rd place, and that will cost Mercedes a lot of points. He's lost half his wing as well. So Lewis up to 6th, so that's going to help his championship. Well,
yeah, bad for him there. What I was going to Ash's first victory of the season was in Malaysia in similar sort of conditions, not as bad as it is today. But obviously he's a master of the wet conditions, it seems.
Yes, I mean, Ash Best made a brilliant strategy call in Malaysia. That's what won him the race that day, but this is at the moment pure pace. But in these such tricky conditions, Ash Best cannot take one eye off it, because one mistake in these conditions and you're going to be hitting the barriers more than likely. So this battle for 7th now really hotting up. Big C closing in on Iran. Lewis not exactly charging away, and Iran gets a poor exit from Radion again, and that's going to put him under attack from Big C. Side by side they go, and I think Big C will get this move done fairly comfortably to go into Lecombe. Iran dropping down the order lap by lap, really struggling in these conditions. And will Shortbread have a little think about a move? Through Lecombe they go, and then down towards Rivage, which is the corner coming up here, turn 8.
Yeah, Lewis had a little bit of a wobble there, but he's kept it together.
Yeah, well, it's a double score for Ferrari as it stands, so that wouldn't be a bad return of points for them. So, at the moment, Mercedes, I think, will be still extending their advantage in the Constructors' Championship. I'll have to work. Actually, no, Haas will actually be closing in on them slightly, although they've still got a very healthy advantage. So let's just have a look. 13 runners of the 15 who started. It would have been 16, but sadly Skeevan's transmission failed, so couldn't make the grid. So can Big C close onto Lewis? Doesn't look like it at the moment. So we're going to have a bit of a spread out field. So I think the main battle we're about to see is between Shortbread and Iran in the fight for 8th place. And there's contact, or at least no, Joel has lost it once again, and that is just before the end of sector 2, or is that Blanchimont? I can't tell at the moment. Yeah, just at the end of sector, no, just before the end of sector 2. So poor Joel, front row, but he hasn't taken advantage of it sadly. But let's go back to the battle with Shortbread and Iran. Shortbread getting ever closer. Iran's really struggled with El Rouge and Radion, and once again really twitchy the back of that Renault, and that's going to allow Shortbread to close in on him. Will Iran go defensive? No, it's quite passive from Iran. I think he knows he hasn't got the speed because of that poor exit from Radion once again, and Shortbread should get this move done into Lecombe, and he does. Up to 8th position then goes the Ferrari driver. So that for now is the only battle we're going to see, because Ash Best is in an absolute class of his own here at Spa-Francorchamps so far, and Joel then
9-second gap already.
Yeah, almost. As Joel pits then from 13th position, and this is going to be for a replacement wing. Sad end, a great qualifying gamble paid off, but he's not going to get any points, you would think. Still a long way to go though, we're only on lap 7. It's going to be a bit of a slog, this one. It may not be a classic that a dry race would have offered, and he's got a stop go as well. Oh, how painful a pit stop was that. He's about to be, at this pace, he's going to be lapped by Ash Best, who just goes on his way. Although Cliffy has comfortably more speed than Lickle by the looks of it. So the podium looks like a foregone conclusion, unless Paudie can do something. So Paudie, unlike Joel, and Lickle pits. Lickle's lost half his wing. Oh dear, no. He must have lost that on this lap. So Lickle pits from 3rd place, and he's going to drop right down the order, and that's going to promote his teammate up to 5th. So Cliffy's two main championship rivals are starting to gain some points, and that just proves once again that even when you're in a good position here, You can't take your eye off it for a second.
I mean, as crazy as it sounds, the race as it's been so far, Joel could still score points in this race. We're not even halfway through yet.
Yeah, we're only on lap 8. Well, Cliffy is about to fall 10 seconds behind Ash Best. This can't feel too good, but if he brings the car home in second, he hasn't lost too much. He's still going to have a healthy advantage in the championship. And, you know, if he finishes second in every race, he's going to be champion. So he's going to be playing for percentages maybe the rest of the season, perhaps, or maybe the rest of the season the likes of Ash Best and Lewis are just going to have more pace on him. But because of those brilliant results Cliffy had early on in the season, it'll be enough for him.
I know it's early days yet, but JD in fourth position, not too far behind Paudie in third place. So if JD was to get that podium today, I think it'd be a nice sight. He already had one already this season, but sadly we was taken away from him because of penalties. So it'd be nice to see if he can finish on the podium today.
Yeah, and we've got such a long way to go, and all of a sudden, despite that terrible qualifying, and despite having to waste so much time getting through the midfield, Lewis had a shot of getting on the podium still. He's only 2.2 seconds behind JD, who himself is only a second behind Paudie and closing in on him. JD denied a podium off that brilliant driver Baku because of an incident, so he'll be desperate to get a podium outright this time. Locks on the brakes. Paudie, it's rather pedestrian from him at the moment, and JD's going to be right on the gearbox of that Toro Rosso very shortly. Before I switch back, just going to have a quick look at Ash Best. Just want to see, you know, how he's handling these conditions, because let's just have a look at the best laps in this race. So looking at the times, although I hate the purple, yeah, look at that, 1.2 seconds faster in terms of the fast lap between the top two, and the only driver except for Greeny who's been in the 201s. So that just underlines the pace that Ash Best has over Cliffy today. At that sort of pace, it's no wonder Cliffy is over 10 seconds behind. So let's go back to the battle for third place. So there was a bit of a lull, but I think Lickle's mistake has really ignited the battle for the final podium position. But because before that, the top three were so spread out, there was no battle there. But now we've got a three-way battle for third place here to entertain us.
Yeah, so going back to what you said about Ash and his dominance, I know he has very good wet setup, so that could maybe explain why he's so quick compared to everyone else. But yeah, as you say, this three-way battle for the top three is well, for third place. Could be an exciting one.
Yeah, and JD is sort of in the dirty air now, and that's costing him time to Lewis, who's now close to within 2 seconds of these two. And yeah, Shortbread is still sort of hanging in there with his teammate Big C. But I don't think Big C would be too displeased with 6th place if it finished like this, given that his lack of pace in the wet has been well documented. So JD then closer than ever. Oh, locks the brakes and just about gets it stopped. He does not want to break his wing now. As we start lap 10, we're nearly a half distance. So, oh, Shortbread.
Big C.
Yeah, Big C's made a mistake. Oh no, he's in the pits. Oh, so the tyre wear must be pretty severe for some of these drivers, and so everyone may still be pitting in this race. So, yeah, Big C, it is a pit stop, no wing change. So we'll switch straight over. So Big C drops to 10th. I think he should get out in front of Greeny, given the time he had over him. So JD then, he's sort of in range of Paudie, but no DRS of course with that disabled in wet conditions, so you may have to think about making a move at a less typical path of the track to catch Paudie by surprise. And JD seems to have pretty good traction through sector 2 so far, so maybe Paudie's got a bit more straight line speed, which is keeping him ahead.
Lewis dropping back ever so slightly there, so maybe because the two boys in front of him are running slightly lower wings. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, he he was closing into the dirty air of JD, so maybe he's just hanging back, maybe waiting for something to happen, or maybe he's tyre saving. But JD now, this is as close to Paudie as he's been since this battle began. But JD, 11 places gained, so if he can get a podium, then I think outside of Ash Best he would certainly be a candidate for driver of the day. As we get this interesting camera view from the T-Wing for a second there. I am glad the coat hangers are gone for the 2018 season. So through Blanchimont then they go. Half distance now. Ash Best starts the 11th lap of this 22 lap race. Now what does JD do? He's not close enough for a move. He's generally going late on the brakes than Paudie into the bus stop, and that's what's allowing him to close in, and JD pits then. Half distance, that sounds about right. I think a lot of other drivers will do the same. So I don't think, it looks like the tyre wear is pretty severe here, so I don't think we'll see anyone going all the way to the end without stopping. And why would you risk it, especially someone like Ash Best, when you'll have such a huge gap?
Yeah.
So Shortbread pits as well. Now interesting, let's see, so Big C interestingly has really undercut his teammate. So he's going to come out several seconds ahead. He was only about a second ahead before. So there's Shortbread just coming out now of the pit lane in 10th place. So a bit of an undercut there from Big C. So that's food for thought for the others. And now Lickle and JD comes out right in front of Lickle. This could get tasty. Lickle pitted a few laps earlier, so he's going to the end. Lickle trying to move around the outside of JD. Is there any contact? Oh, this is so close. Unexpected battle for JD straight away. Lickle obviously getting the undercut after his earlier pit stop to replace his wing. But JD, to his credit, holding back the Voltex driver in impressive fashion.
Great wheel-to-wheel driving now for.
Now, an interesting thing now that JD is pitted, Lewis has rapidly caught up to Paudie, so maybe he was just waiting for a bit of free space to move into so he can get onto the back of Paudie. He's now just over a second behind. I'm just going to keep with this battle for a few more moments, just in case we see some sort of lunge. But I better switch to Lewis now, because Lewis is less than a second now behind Paudie as they go through Blanchimont. And Ash Best then pits from the lead of the Belgian Grand Prix, and Cliffy will carry on. So Ash Best, where will he end up? Because traffic, despite his lead, it could be, but that won't be a problem because Paudie and Lewis both pit. So yeah, Aaron won't get, so Ash Best will come out and clear road. So Cliffy was probably hoping that these two would have carried on and blocked Ash Best somehow, but that's not going to happen. So this is going to be a straight fight in the pit stops between the Toro Rosso crews and the Haas crew ahead. And the Toro Rosso did a disappearing act. And very good work from the Toro Rosso crew. Gets it back out in front of the Haas. But JD's undercut them both possibly. He's got out ahead of Lewis still, but no, not ahead of Paudie though. So that battle of Lickle may well have cost him the chance to get back out ahead of Paudie, because he would have wasted time doing battling, because I think if he'd come out on a clean track, I think he would have got ahead of Paudie. And now we've got the two Haas teammates possibly going into the fight here. As Lickle, well, doesn't go for a move in the end, somewhat surprisingly.
What's amazing, I think, is Ash only came out 3 seconds, just over 3 seconds behind Cliffy after his pit. And
he's already rapidly catching Cliffy. When Cliffy pits, he'll be miles behind Ash Best. But he should come out in front of Paudie, so still good points for the championship. But this is getting very, very interesting indeed. There's now, Lickle is now back involved in this battle for 3rd place. And Joel retires from the race. And is that just calling it a day? Yeah, pulls off the circuit. And a sad end to Joel's race, having been in such a promising position. So Cliffy then goes through Blanchimont. Let's see if he pits. And I'm going to switch back instantly to Paudie. Cliffy pits then. So we got 4 cars then dueling for the final podium. You get the sense there could be one more incident here which could decide this, but hopefully it's decided fairly and strongly. Paudie then in third position, be a great result for him. Just looking back at his results this season, his best result so far this season was an 8th place finish in Britain, so even if he drops a few places, this will be by far his best result of the season. But who's going to make the first move? JD was unable to get past Paudie earlier on in the stint, so he's got to try and get past Paudie now, but now he's got Lewis right behind him and Lickle as well, so the hunted could become the hunter any moment as far as Lewis is concerned, as Lickle picks up a time penalty running over Ulrich and Radion. But yeah, Paudie's top line speed clearly superior to JD's setup, there's no question about it now. As Ash Best, after the Cliffy pit stop, 15 seconds, nearly 16-second gap. This is by far, if it finishes like this, one of the most dominant wins of the season. And will that play into Cliffy's mind in the races to come? Or will he just, you know, just keep finishing second, third and just take the championship on percentage?
Yeah, I think he can take this on the chin really, and I think the rest of the season will be okay. It's just something sometimes just don't get those days, do you, when it doesn't go right for you? But still, second place is a decent result.
Yeah, comfortably clear of Paudie. Paudie makes a little mistake though into the end of sector 2 as we run up to Blanchimont for the 13th time. Can JD might have to think about a lunge down the chicane as Asbest sets another fastest lap. It's nearly going under the 2-minute mark. Now, I'm going to keep an eye on those lap times, because if those lap times start coming down, I wonder if the rain's going to start to trail off. We shall see. JD getting very close now. Any mistake from JD or Paudie and the two Haas machines will pounce like the proverbial cat.
I picked up a 3-second time penalty, but I don't think that's going to matter to him too much.
No, it will not matter to him at all, as long as he doesn't bin it into Eau Rouge going over those curbs, which are very slippery indeed. So we ride on a great camera shot of JD running up Eau Rouge and Radion. He did not lift, really, barely at all. That was great stuff. Fantastic view. He's closer to Paudie again, but again, Paudie, better acceleration, less wing, just allowing him to keep ahead. Just having a look at the fuel loads of the cars, bit more on the Toro Rosso, as they go both into lean through Rivage, and Lewis has a bit more, and well, Lickle is running negative, and that's maybe why he's dropped back a little bit. Minus 16 even in lean, so that's interesting. Actually, did Lickle? No, Lickle's wing's okay. As they go through Pouhon, which is another fantastic corner on this track. I mean, a lot of people say Monaco is the one everyone wants to win, but I think a lot of race drivers will say winning a Spa is the one they want to win, because this track is so steeped in history. So many legendary races and legendary drivers have won here. And Ash Best putting on a kind of a performance that one of the Rainmeisters of the past, such as Senna, Schumacher or Hamilton, would be proud of in the Psgl F1 League here today. But JD just can't get close enough, can he?
Lewis one slightly a bit wide there.
Oh, JackLacey's left the session.
Well, we don't know what effect that's going to have on the season in terms of slipstream, but so we don't know. But I mean, it's not making too much difference anyway, because JD can't get past.
Paudie slips wide. Paudie slips wide at La Source, but gets the power down. He didn't go onto the curb, so he managed to still maintain a bit of speed. Oh, JD gets a penalty. Yeah, Lewis has really slipped back. So this could be the site mainly for the rest of the race. I mean, I think unless Lewis passes JD, I just don't think JD's going to have the show on speed. As long as Paudie just keeps on the track. he should be okay. If you could just check the penalties for these three, Johnny, and let us know what they are in a minute.
Okay.
So Paudie then carrying on. Reminder, 8th place, his best position this season in a race. Back at Britain, on for a podium, which we well deserved. He had a great qualifying session. He was one of 2 drivers who made it off over the line on the gamble and ultra softs and got 3rd place. And unlike Joel, he has pretty maintained his position. There was a few incidents which should have put him back up to that position, but he's doing a fine job right now, holding off this Williams JD and the very fast Lewis W03, who won't be winning his 3rd race in a row. And JD runs wide, and Hellboy's out of the race. We'll check what happened to him in a minute, because Lewis getting close to JD to go through Blanchimont. Will Lewis go for a move at bus stop? No, he won't. And yep, Hellboy's lost it at Pouon. So that's our 4th retirement of the race. And he has spectacularly lost it there. So while one Williams driver is out, JD carries on in 4th place. So let us know, Johnny, what are the penalties for these 3?
Yeah, currently out of these 3, JD is the only one with a 3-second time penalty. The others have had a warning each, but no penalties yet.
That's a poor exit from JD over Radion, and I think Liquid's finally going to get an opportunity to get past his Williams and then chase after for that podium. They're going to go side by side into Lacombe. Who's going to yield, if at all? Lewis will have the inside, but then JD can't come back. So job done for Lewis. He waited for the opportunity very patiently, and he's taking it as we go through Rivage. And now, can the Haas driver put more pressure on Paudie, as JD had so many laps to do so but just failed to do so, mainly because of a lack of top line speed. So this Paudie is going to be under enormous pressure for the rest of the race as well. The battle for the lead is, well, it's a non-contest. It's like a 1st round knockout between a heavyweight and a cruiserweight. Ash Best has absolutely dominated this race from start to finish. A great start on lap 1, and he hasn't looked back since. And he only lost the lead when he pitted, but that realistically was just a timing screen change for a mere lap, because Cliffy had no chance. As Ash Best sets another, he's nearly dipping into the 1 minute 59s.
Yeah, so Big C is closing ever so slightly on the back of Lico, so that could be another battle that could come along shortly.
And Iran is on for his 10 out of 10 point score, so keep an eye on that. He's got a 10-second gap to Maxi at the moment.
Not too far behind Greeny either.
No, he isn't. So Lewis just under a second behind Paudie at this point. But again, you may have to wait patiently for Paudie to make a mistake. Let's go on board with Paudie for a second. He deals with Radion and El Rouge perfectly fine. If we go onto the Kemmel Straight, lap 17 then of this Psgl F1 League race here at Belgium. Ash Best nearly 19 seconds ahead of Cliffy now. Has shown more pace than the championship leader all race long. Be interested to see what the difference would have been had it been a dry race, but clearly Ash Best, the very best in this wet race today. But Paudie, the main story at the moment, trying to hold on to that 3rd position from Lewis, who has been in great form recently with those back-to-back victories at Britain and Hungary.
I'm just casting my mind back, and I think actually Ash's F3 days is when he raced at Spa last season. I think it was a similar dominant fashion as well. So there's obviously good track for Ash. It seems.
Interestingly, Ash Best has lost 7/10 of time on this lap. So I think he's made a mistake somewhere, but obviously with such a big gap, it's not going to matter. Let's go back to Lewis then. He's getting ever closer to the back of that Toro Rosso. Less than half a second now. They go through Blanchimont. So Paudie, a very experienced driver in Psgl, a former Race of Champions winner as well in the F1 2016 era. He goes very deep at the bus stop, and that's going to allow Lewis to get ever closer. But you can see the acceleration Paudie gets, so he's certainly got similar wings. I'm just checking their fuel loads. Yeah, very similar fuel loads, so no issue there. And Paudie slides wide at La Source, and that's going to allow Lewis to get closer and closer.
I think this could be his best opportunity.
Yeah, Paudie's got to get this right. Oh, the car twitched to left, but actually Lewis is the one who has the worst of it going over Radion, so he'll have to try again the next lap.
Big C going over to him, trying to get past Lickle.
Yeah,
goes on the outside of it.
Well spotted. We're going to turn off the camera for this. I mean, turn off the stats for this one. And Big C round the outside of Lickle. Well, who says he's slow in the wet? Lickle tries to come back at him. Oh, they're going to go side by side into Rivage possibly, but no, Big C, better acceleration. Oh, Lickle's nudged the back of the Ferrari. Don't think Big C be impressed by that. Oh, Big C, the back end twitching a little bit. No assists after all. No traction, so it's such a challenge in these conditions. It's amazing he keeps it on the track, to be honest.
Yeah, interestingly, in this second stint here, Shortbread has not been able to live with Big C after the first pit stops. So he's, in the second stint he's struggling a little bit compared to his teammate.
The rain seems to be less intense and the spray seems to be less than it was earlier, so we could get a bit of a crossover to the intermediate conditions soon, because the rain is definitely not as intense as it was at the beginning of the race, and you can see from the spray not as much water being kicked up. And Paudie struggling in.
To go, though.
Yeah, no one's going to pit now, that's for sure. Unless it dries out suddenly, well, we could see something ridiculous. But Paudie struggling through sector 3. Oh, we got yellows in sector 3. What's happened? Anyone gone off? Nope.
No, I think the Shortbread looked at a bit of a slow exit there, but other than that, I can't see it. Greeny is in the pits, so
must have been Greeny.
He's got some front wing damage.
He has. Oh dear, and he's going to lose the final championship points at Erin. As long as he keeps on the road, almost certainly we'll be getting that point again. But look at this. Lewis as close as he has been. Is he going to go for a move? No, he's not close enough to Lecom. But Paudie doesn't do a great job of Lecom, so doesn't get away. Lewis may have better tyre wear at this point. These points, every point could be 8 points or 10, but those extra 2 points for Lewis could be so important if it goes down to the wire. So he knows he has to get this done. Greeny ticks up a time penalty as soon as he comes out of the pit. Well behind Maxi now. It's now a 20-second advantage for Ashbest.
Big C rapidly closing on the back of JD now, so that could be a battle for him in the next few laps. Big C might pick up fifth place before this race is finished.
Yeah, look, the times are coming down, so I think the rain is easing off. It's not going to ease off enough for Inters, it's too late for that, but I think as it gets drier, Big C is finding his speed, so he could still yet get 5th place, and who knows if there's an instant between these two. Oh, Lewis picks up a time penalty. Lewis goes down the inside at the bus stop. Paudie though still had the advantage of the inside for the second part of it, but now Lewis, can he get the acceleration out of the corner to go through La Source? Coming up now, and look at the straight line speed of Paudie, but Lewis is going to have the inside. Slight contact. Lewis will get it done, but who's going to have the better acceleration going down towards El Rouge and Radion? It's going to be Lewis this time. So Lewis is on the podium, but he's got a 3-second time penalty. Paudie doesn't have one, I believe.
No.
He's only got 2 laps then to establish a 3-second gap. That's going to be a tall order. So Paudie then, you know, he's still on for a brilliant score of points today, so, you know, you just got to not be too disheartened by that. And he might know that Lewis has a penalties, and if he stays within 3 seconds, he's still going to get that podium. But Big C now is closing in rapidly on JD, and, well, I know there's only 3 laps to go, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility. People ahead of him make mistakes that Big C could snatch a podium out of nowhere. He's not that far behind Lewis right now.
Yeah, so he's had a strong second stint on the after the pit stop. So
yes, he really has.
Yeah, so obviously, as you said, Wayne seems to be easing off, and it seems to be working in his favour. Although he's had a little bit of a slide there.
Yeah, Lewis has already got 1.5 second gap to Paudie, so I think at that rate Lewis will get the podium. He can't afford to make any mistakes. Well, as best, let's go on board with him briefly. I think if he were to stuff it up into the wall, it would be a bottle job up there with a certain F3 driver we saw early in the season, which caused a certain commentator to laugh very heartedly. But at best, it is silky smooth from him, as it has been for pretty much the entire race. Cliffy, absolutely no answer, but let's go back to Big C, because Big C, is he still closing in on the back of JD? Yes, he is. Fifth place would be a good result for JD, to be fair to him.
Yeah.
JD, how does he? Yeah, just about even. Oof, Big C, the front end twitching a little bit. So thanks to everyone who's been watching this race. Hope you've had a good race. Probably not as entertaining as a dry race would have been. I think we've seen a fair amount of action, and of course a horrendous crash we saw early on, which I'm definitely going to have a look after the race, and I'd love to see some of the onboard perspectives from some of the other drivers of that, just to see what happened, because that was the worst crash of the season, no question about it. So, well, Paudie 1.9 seconds behind, so Lewis, it's going to be very nip and tuck to get that podium. Needs 3 seconds.
I think Paudie's straight line speed is keeping him just in touch at the minute.
Yeah, Lewis has got to find a second in the next lap and a half. As Ash Best then rounds the final corner to start the final lap of this race. Well, I'm almost tempted to keep on board with him, because if something were to happen now, it would be absolute daylight robbery for Cliffy to win this race, quite frankly. Who hasn't even started the lap yet. So let's see if Ash Best deals with El Rouge for last time. Will he relax a bit too much? And no, gets it done. Oof, runs a bit wide. Slightly nervous moment from Ash Best, but does a decent job of it. So that's the hardest part of the track, you would think, navigating. So we're going to stick with Big C. I will make sure we switch back to Ash Best before he crosses the line, because I think this is the only real battle left on track. 2.4 seconds between Paudie and Lewis. Lewis has not done enough to get that podium. He needs more time. He needs another 6 tenths in a lap. It's gained 2. I don't think Big C is going to be close enough to challenge JD at El Rouge, unless JD makes a huge mistake as we ride up with the Ferrari driver over Radion. Is Big C any closer? I think JD didn't get the best exit, but I think he's got enough of a gap. 2.5 seconds the gap between Paudie and Lewis. It's going to go right to the line. That straight line speed that you mentioned, Johnny, could save him. So where is Ash Best now? He is coming through sector 2. Nearly 25 second gap.
He's not slowing down at all, as you can see from the lap time on the left hand side of the screen. He is just staying on it all the way through the lap.
Yeah, he certainly is. I'm just seeing if anyone... No, nobody made a late change to tyres. So then, let's go on board with Ash Best as he goes through Blanchimont. And there's never any doubt he was going to make no mistakes on the final lap, really, given how he's driven. So around the final corner then goes Ash Best. And it is an absolutely brilliant performance to win here in Belgium. What a fantastic drive from Ash Best to reignite his title bid, even if he hasn't gained too much on Cliffy. If he keeps performing like that, Cliffy is going to have a lot to worry about, especially as we get more wet races. So where is Cliffy? Cliffy will cross the line. A very good second place. Good for his championship. And let's quickly switch to Big C, because Big C is right on the back of JD. Will he make some sort of almighty lunge at the final corner? No, he won't. Cliffy finishes second. And a battle for third. I don't think Lewis has done enough. Paudie will head for the line. No! He hasn't taken third. Less than 2/10. Oh dear. How unlucky is that? Oh, that's unbelievable. Big C.
Yeah, so this fifth because of JD's penalty.
So then, right on board with the race winner. Shortbread finishes 8th, Lickle 7th. Irin then. Where is Irin? Irin takes a point again. And Maxi, what's going on between these two? They're going side by side into the final corner.
The final point.
For the final point. This is what it means to these drivers. Who's going to get it? Oh, well, that was
Maxi got it in the end, I believe.
Yes, Greeny finishes 11th. Maxi gets the final point, and that's a good point for Mercedes. 17 points for them today. Well, that was a dramatic end to that race. I'm glad we caught that.
Yeah, really enjoyed that race, yeah.
It was a very good race. I was surprisingly entertaining. So Asbest then on the top step. No one can doubt that he deserves this race win today. An absolutely dominant performance here around Spa-Francorchamps. And Cliffy and Louis, well, these are the three best drivers in PSGL F1 right now. No doubt about it. Once again, these three on the podium. And they will have quite the gap from the rest now, especially with the likes of JackLacey and AMS struggling today. So Asbest takes the victory then from Cliffy by over 22 seconds. Lewis in third, Paudie fourth. Brilliant drive from him today. Very unlucky not to take that podium in the end. So close. Big C in fifth, a good return for him despite the wet conditions. JD in sixth, Lickle in seventh, Shortbread in eighth, Irin in ninth, and Maxi taking the final point. And they both had equal amount of penalties, so it was decided on the track. So that was almightily close on the line. Quite a lot of retirements today as well. So yeah, 4 retirements there. Spare a 4 for Joel. Great qualifying, but it just didn't work out for him in the end. A huge crash ended his race, really. So we're going to wait for the podium, and hopefully, if I've set this up right, I won't have to go into that dreaded blue screen. So I'm just going to make sure. Okay. Try to get my phone to work. So we hope you enjoyed that, and we're going to hear from the 3 drivers shortly. And we had the first of our podiums. So Asbest, you are the race winner of Belgium, and no one can doubt it was well deserved. So Asbest, was that possibly the most dominant race win of your PSGL career so far?
Possibly, really. Just keeping it focused. Love the track, literally. One of my favorites. So just keeping it focused, got in the groove, just kept on driving around it. And if you love a track, you're going to dominate if you really love it.
Yeah. So was there any points in the race where you were maybe losing concentration because you were so far ahead?
Not really. I was always concentrated. I was because of my passion of the track. I don't drive for the concentration or just focusing and sweating it. I love the tracks, and if you love it, you're going to drive fast on it. So yeah, I wasn't losing concentration at all, really.
Well, if you could share your wet setup with me on the down low, I would be much appreciated. But we are now joined by the man who finished second place, who had his championship lead cut slightly. Cliffy, you could do absolutely nothing about the race winner today, just as it was the case in Hungary last week, but it's still a very good second place for you today. Cliffy, your initial thoughts on the race?
Well, qualifying was a bit of a disaster because obviously the guys who went on ultras managed to qualify me. But yeah, I mean, again, I couldn't really do nothing for the race win. I knew after my first stint that Ash was going to win, so I just sort of whacked it in lean, made sure I didn't bin it either. I know we said that he was concentrating, but I was just mainly focusing on just finishing the race. But yeah, I mean, it's my second race now with forced feedback, and that was actually my first wet race. So yeah, I'm glad I managed to bring it home in P2.
Excellent. Is Lewis here?
Yeah, I'm in.
Oh, I didn't see you come in, sorry. Must have joined at the same time as Cliffy. So, Lewis, you didn't have the best qualifying session, but you came back with a very good recovery drive to take the podium, so that must have been quite fun.
Yeah, I had quite a few great battles today. It just seems like when you're within like a second of a car in the wet, you struggle so hard to get close. And like the first few laps, you could barely see like 2 feet in front of you with all the spray as well. So it was actually quite hard to see.
Yeah. So, you three drivers, as I said in commentary, clearly the class of the field at the moment. So, Lewis, do you think you can catch Cliffy and take the championship away from him?
No. My only hope is to probably beat Ash, as I keep saying every week. And probably second in constructors. So that means probably beating Force India as well.
And Ash Best, given how you dominated today, surely there's still a chance of you winning the championship with 4 races to go.
Well, I have 2 things on my mind right now. First off, just keeping consistent like this, and well, the championship is really not looking likely. I calculated what I needed to do per race, and well, I needed to get a 6-point gap this race, which didn't happen. I didn't gain 6 points in Cliffy, so I don't think it's going to be that realistic, and then I still need to find a teammate that's going to stick with me.
Right. And Cliffy, you still hold all the aces in the championship battle with 4 rounds to go. Are you feeling the pressure at all?
Well, I was talking to Louis during the week, and he was telling me what he could set at Belgium, and it was quite scary. But if I can just finish near Ash and Louis at every race, the last 4 races, then you know it should be all right. Obviously, I've got the pace too, so I guess I'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, if we get more races like this, as we've had most of the season, I think the last 4 races, regardless of how it turns out, will be very entertaining indeed. So, congratulations to the podium, and thanks once again to you, JP, for standing in the commentary booth with me.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Glad to be here again.
And we just had Iran join the party, so we'll get a brief word from the point taker, or the points master, whatever you want to call him. Iran, the streak is still alive, 10 for 10.
Yeah, I'm sorry for just joining the party, but you know, sorry guys, I need my airtime. I haven't had any this season. Yeah, really delighted with another P9. 10 points finishes on the trot. All of them have been between P8 and P10. So yeah, couldn't be delighted, mate. You know, couldn't be more delighted. Fantastic.
Yeah, well, I think we can safely say you are the most consistent points taker in terms of the grid this season.
Thank you.
Right. Well, next week we will return Psgl F1 same time at the Temple of Speed for Monza, and what should be another cracking Psgl F1 race. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.